Yeah. Montana office?
Y'all got a Montana office for real?
I'm trying to get transferred.
You might want to work up there during the summer.
Exactly. Summers in Montana, winters in St. Simon. Sounds like a great plan.
It's 2 o'clock, so I'll call the commission meeting for Thursday, July 20th, 2023 to order. Would everyone please stand? I'll lead us in the invocation, and I've asked Commissioner Stevens to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this day and for us being able to live in such a wonderful community. Thank you for the opportunity we have to serve citizens of Glynn County. Father, I want to pray for our staff and their families, and we appreciate the hard work they do in keeping the water and sewer systems going. And thank you for everything they do, and bless their families. And Father, we want to pray particularly for Janice Meredith, who lost her father this past week. Just be with her this week, and be with her mother and her sisters as they're mourning the loss of their dad, who was 96 years old. Lead, guide, and direct us, and give us and help us bring glory to you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is anybody here to give public comment? Okay.
Do an excused absence for Commissioner Watson.
We're going to eliminate the employee recognition. Ms. Farrer is not here today, so we'll move on from that. We need to have a motion to excuse Clayton Watson.
So mute.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Kendra? Ms. Rowe? Ms. Rowe, did you hear me?
Yes, I did.
How do you vote?
Oh, I vote yes, yes.
Okay. Vote passes 6-0. We'll move to committee updates. Yesterday we had a facilities committee meeting, and during that meeting we approved for submission to the full commission today the capital purchase of some more GPS units that are going to replace those that are out of date that we presently use. Also for lead detection units, 2 of those, if you don't know, within the next 2 years we have to locate all of our lead and service and copper service lines and galvanized service lines. One of these days they might have to be replaced too, so we have to complete that survey, and that particular units are what's going to be used to help our staff to locate those particular ones. We also, the Academy Creek sludge dryer needed to be repaired, so we've got a proposal from a contractor who works on those to repair that dryer, which we approved that. And then we dedicated 3 different infrastructure projects. And we had good news on both our water system and the wastewater system. On the mainland, the average water produced was 5.404 million gallons a day. St. Simon's Island, 3.39 million gallons a day. And Southport was 300,000 gallons a day. On the wastewater, we had good news too. The Academy Creek plant is currently operating at 42% of its capacity with a average daily flow of 6.3 million gallons a day. I also want to state that Academy Creek is meeting its brand-new permit, the recently issued permit for ammonia, and had to be meeting it by this month, which they did meet. The Dunbar Creek is operating at 76% of its capacity with an average daily flow of 3.1 million gallons a day. Southport's at 35% of its capacity at a flow of 0.42 million gallons a day. That concludes my report. I'll ask Commissioner Stevens to give a report on the finance meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a relatively short finance agenda yesterday. All the items that you just discussed were also on the finance agenda, all the approval items, and the committee recommended to approve all of those. Additionally, we had some discussion about some surplus equipment that we need to be getting rid of that we'll be talking about here today. The committee recommended that we approve those. And then we had kind of a first draft closeout of our fiscal year. June wrapped up our fiscal year, so we discussed the year-end financials, our investment performance, and ultimately we're in pretty good shape. We've got some final year-end closeout that's left to do, but at this point we project to have a good year.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. We'll move to the approval section of the agenda. Item 1 is minutes from the June 14th, 2023 commission.
Motion
Make a
to
motion
approve.
that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? We also had the finance meeting at that same,
Yeah.
Kendra said aye.
okay. And the finance meeting was also included in that same meeting, so I guess it's just one set of minutes, is that
Yes,
what we had?
That's correct.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is minutes from the June 14th, 2023 executive session meeting. I have a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item is Splosh Intergovernmental Agreement. Mr. Dominy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. You have before you the SPLOST 22 Intergovernmental Agreement. This is an agreement with the county that is required by Georgia law to be in place before the county can share SPLOST proceeds with any other governmental entity. As you recall, the SPLOST is estimated to raise $133 million to fund certain capital outlay projects in the county. The IGA for the JWSC projects is broken down into Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects. The Tier 1 projects are estimated to be $6 million for the Exit 29 elevated storage tank and production well, and $7 million for the water and sewer services extensions. The additional Tier 2 projects are estimated to be worth $2 million and also include water and sewer service extensions. We've worked with the county attorney in drafting this intergovernmental agreement. It's similar to the one that the JWSC and county entered into several years ago for the last SPLOST. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water Sewer.
That's correct. It's our legal name because it got left out of a document, so that's why it reads weird.
Does read weird.
It does.
I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission, the SPLOST 2022 agreement by and between Glynn County, Georgia, and Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water and Sewer Commission for the receipt of 2022 SPLOST funds. This is approved.
Motion.
Okay, I thought.
The second line's the weird one because the joint is left out because that's not in there.
Right,
Okay.
right.
There's a motion second. Any other questions, comments?
I just want to go over that this is a direct reflection of the benefits of the SPLOST program. This is going to help a lot of our customers. It's the elevated water tank is going to help pressures in that whole area. Is that correct? And,
Yes, sir.
And it's going to plan into the future. So this is really key. And just thank you to the voters. And you get to actually see your taxpayer dollars at work and benefiting the system and benefiting the customers. So thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item is Capital equipment purchase, Trimble GPS units, Mr. Burrows.
Yes, sir. We utilize GIS systems for mapping and organization of operational asset data that allows us to obtain and record critical information such as construction or repair dates, asset types, materials, and sizes. This accurate collection and maintenance of data applies to new assets or as repairs are made to existing ones where it may not have existing data. It's critical to the asset management function of the utility and is performed by both operations and planning and construction crews in the field using handheld GPS units. Our current Trimble units, Trimble is a manufacturer of GPS units, have been discontinued with technical repair and support being phased out by the company. We've tested various replacement models and staff selected the Trimble model TDC 600 handheld hardware with TerraFlex data collection solution and Catalyst position as a service support functionality. This allows us to have more satellites available, which is particularly important in areas that are under the tree canopy on St. Simons to improve accuracy with the availability of additional satellites. It has a lower cost than the original hardware that was budgeted. The original hardware that was budgeted was going to be approximately $44,000. The purchase price for these 4 units with the annual subscription to the Catalyst and TerraFlex platforms is $27,615. This was presented to both the Facilities and Finance committees yesterday and recommended for approval.
Can I have a motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission purchase 4 Trimble units with Duncan Parnell in the amount of $27,615 as presented.
Motion is second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 6 to nothing. Next item is capital equipment purchase, lead detection units. Mr. Burrs.
Yes, sir. As you mentioned in your update from the Facilities Committee yesterday, the U.S. EPA is requiring community water systems that serve more than 10,000 customers to complete and submit an inventory of their lead service lines by October 16th of 2024. We have to identify services both on the utility side of the meter and the customer side of the meter. We have decent records of material types up to the meter. However, on the customer side, service line records are essentially non-existent. It is not required to identify specific material types at this time. We are required to identify whether they are lead service, non-lead service, or unknown. Georgia EPD established that any services installed after January 1st, 1990 can be considered non-lead. Since the plumbing code changed in 1988, they allowed a 2-year window for phase out of existing lead services. According to tax records and building permits, there have been 11,728 homes connected to our water systems that were built prior to 1990. It is highly unlikely that each of these will have to be checked. We are working through a data exercise to reduce the number of installations that are required to be individually checked, as a house may not have been connected to the water system until decades after construction. And we may be able to pull record drawings from subdivision installation that may have some material types for services as well. And we will be able to do representative sampling of a neighborhood. If, say, 100 houses in the neighborhood, we are unknown, we can do statistical analysis and say we have to sample, say, 13 or 14 of those. Really, you've got 2 options to complete this work. The first option is to essentially pothole all the service lines that need to be potholed in people's yards to determine the condition and of the material. The other option that we deem more efficient and provides the least amount of disturbance to buried lines and the installed services is to purchase units known as swordfish units from ElectroScan. There's additional information attached to it if you would like more information, but essentially we run a cable up a line, induce a small electric current, and the resistance of the material in the pipe determines that tells us what the material type is. This will allow us to be much more efficient about gathering the data and be significantly less intrusive to our customer base. We can run, probably do somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 of these per unit per day. We are requesting to purchase 2 of these units, and it will allow us to meet the October deadline and improve the overall accuracy of our GIS mapping. These units are not cheap. The total cost for 2 of them is $130,750. However, if we check 600 services, they pay for themselves compared to potholing and going out with mini excavators on everybody's lawn.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission purchase 2 lead detection units from ElectroScan, Inc. in the amount of $130,750.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions or comments?
Could you elaborate a little bit on the potholing kind of thing so that people have a concept?
Well, essentially, you have two options for potholing. We could take a mini excavator out there and dig down and try to find the service line
And you're talking about on the property?
on the
owner's
customer side
property.
of the property.
Right. And it
The
would
other
be-
option would be to back up a VATCON and do hydro excavation in there. The potential damage to the assets is great. Plus, you've got landscaping, irrigation, all other associated things that might be in people's yard.
Right.
And it's going to extend the time that somebody's water is out while we check that if we happen to break something. These can be, we simply just remove the meter, run it up one side and up the other, and we put it back in place.
So it's not like you're just digging a hole in one place and looking
No,
down
we'd
the
have to
pipe.
check multiple places because
Okay.
as we know,
Right.
some sections may have failed and been replaced, and then 10 more feet up in the yard, you're back on the old service.
So by using these, and what, we just have to take the meter out and run the thing, and we get the reading and then put the meter back, so,
Put the meter back, flush the line, we're good to go.
okay.
Will any of these meters be the old type meters and we can replace with new?
Well, we're currently going through that. We expect to have all of our new meters in the ground by December 31st. So we're over 24,000 of the 30,000 replaced now. So, obviously, if we happen to be there and they haven't been replaced yet, we will absolutely put the new meter in so we don't have to go twice.
I know yesterday at facilities, we had a lengthy discussion about this, and I think a lot of us struggle with it, just the concept here, not the approach, but the concept, and, while I'm okay with support, while I support it because it sounds like it's a have to, I just know a lot of times the government, EPA, et cetera, they push these rules out, and there's no way possible everybody can meet the expectation. I can think of some things in the past, like maybe with our, boil water advisories, that we initially took a very, very conservative approach, and then when we realized how big a deal it was, we kind of went back and, looked at that a little more liberally. And I just ask that we at least do that here and make sure that we fully understand the requirement and make sure there's no way around this before we spend this kind of money. And if it was pointed at Glynn County, I'd say, well, okay, this, maybe we had an issue here that, there was a rule that we had to do, and okay, but, looking at the scale of the United States, to think about every single community going out, and it sounds like this is the only technology available, proprietary technology. How is every single, utility in the country, every single community in the country, millions, 330 million, people were gonna go test every pipe in the country in cities like Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles, and do so by October 2024, especially when it sounds like this is the only technology that exists, and these people can only make these so quick.
Yeah, other than physically potholing, this is
But
about
New
the
York
only
can't do that.
option.
New York can't go
It
pothole
is-
every line.
It is certainly a challenge. We
Right.
are fortunate that we don't have as many to check as a lot of other people do.
So, I mean, how can, so I say all that to say before, if we approve it today, I still think one more time you should go back to the well and say, is this necessary? Is it required? Maybe even have Charlie look at the documentation and the actual standard that says thou shalt do this and verify that it truly is a thou shalt and not a, yeah, we'd like for you to. But this is a lot of money, and we had discussion yesterday for Commissioner Neal and Commissioner Strickland, Commissioner Roll, who didn't have the luxury of hearing the first pass at it, but, once we're done with these machines, we'll never use them again, for this type of stuff. This is $130,000, some meter regulation that we believe exists. I just asked us to go back to the well, verify that it's absolutely necessary, there's no way around it before we make the capital purchase. And I think that can be done mutually exclusive of us approving you today to have the ability to make the purchase if you still deem necessary. But it stings me to think that, we do all this and then the EPA say, thanks, but, you didn't really have to. Because there's no way possible, and I'll say it right now, that every pipe in this country is gonna get checked between now and October 2024. Not gonna happen.
And following that line of thought, if we do have to do it quickly and then sell our equipment to another community
Yeah.
Right.
We actually talked about that yesterday about
and
potentially,
covering some of the
renting our
costs.
equipment out to somebody else for a little while once we get through with
Yeah,
it,
they
something
might
like that.
extend the deadline,
Yeah.
on bigger places, and
Certainly don't wanna
We get
ignore
ours
government
done.
mandate, but there is no way possible every pipe in this country will be checked between now and
Doesn't sound
October
feasible.
2024. Will not happen.
sounds like someone sitting at a desk made that decision.
That's not like somebody who sells equipment. Made that decision.
Of the 11,700 houses, what percentage do we actually have to check?
Well, it depends. If there's only one or two in the neighborhood, we're gonna have to check the one or two in the neighborhood. If they were all installed at the same time, we can check a portion of them, and assuming, if we check 10 of 100 or whatever the number ends up being, and all 10 of those are not lead, for example, then we can say that the rest of them are not lead, because in all likelihood, we would have found a lead service in that time period.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that not only is there a capital request, we're essentially taking 2 productive FTEs
Yes,
out of rotation for the foreseeable future to do nothing but focus on this. 2 trucks or a truck.
it's real, yeah.
So you got the, depreciation of vehicles, you got, pipe supplies. This is gonna be well over $250,000 when it's all said and done. Well over $250,000 when it's all said and done. And I just encourage to make sure we're not being too conservative or interpretation of an EPA rule, and that this is truly a mandate.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to amend the motion at all?
I think we can still approve it and trust that Andrew's gonna do what we just asked. And, if he's, after doing so, sees that this is truly necessary, I think that could be mutually exclusive, but, or if we wanted to amend the motion, I'd be happy to amend it and just say, I move that the Brunswick Joint Water and Sewer Commission give the executive, the director, the leeway to purchase 2 detection units from Electrostan in the amount of $130,750 if deemed appropriate.
Do I have a motion to amend the motion? Or do I have a second on amending the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Yeah,
All in
that's fine.
favor?
Okay,
Ms. Rowe?
She said
Aye.
yes,
Okay. Now we'll vote on the amended motion.
okay.
Oh,
The thing about this is that you can't drag your feet, because we have so many we have to do, and if we start finding more than we expect, we may have to do some additional checking. So we've, it's kind of one of these balance things here, so. And like I say, if we finish early, and they may extend the deadline, which is a realistic possibility, we might end up selling the equipment to someone else that needs more equipment to be able to get, more checks done.
This company can't make that many of them in that amount of time. They can't make one. They can't make 2 for every utility in this country in the next 18 months.
I don't know.
And,
Is this really the guy that invented the machine on the
He,
picture?
he claims he is, yes, sir.
Really? What the hairdo is the.
He's a very intelligent gentleman. He came down and demoed the unit
Yeah.
for us.
To your point, Commissioner Cook, is they may push the motion out. I mean, they may push the Band-Aid out. But I just want to make sure we're not overly being conservative on our interpretation of the mandate.
Yeah.
And that would be easy to do. I mean, it wouldn't be anybody's fault. That would just be easy to do, to be overly conservative on it.
Because the thing is, from the customer side also, identifying lead pipes is a safety issue, and particularly for people that have children. And so, there's a positive side to the whole thing too. So, we've got to be aware of that.
And also, we do have the coastal district of EPD in our backyard. And obviously, if they see us taking the lead on this kind of thing, that will help a whole lot.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But there are a lot of communities around, like we mentioned, that could probably use this. We could loan it to them, or they need to
Right?
lease it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries
Aye.
6-0. Thank you very
Just one
much.
After comment, can you bring it back next month and let's actually, and tell us what you found?
Sure.
And just tell us whether what bring the EPA, language.
Sure.
Say, hey, this is how we acted. Thank you.
Next item is capital equipment, Academy Creek Sludge Dryer Rehabilitation, Mr. Burrs.
Yes, sir. At Academy Creek, we operate a Fenton sludge dryer that dries pressed sludge off of a belt filter press. The drying process takes the sludge from 15 to 18% solids to over 95% solids and meets the requirement for Class A sludge. Currently, it is disposed of in a municipal solid waste landfill site in Folkestone. For non-dried sludge, we are limited by the landfill how much can be brought per calendar quarter, and that is impacted by rainfall totals received at the landfill during the period. So for the month of June, we ran out of space about a week and a half before the end of June and had to basically store sludge for a week and a half because the dryer was malfunctioning. This request here is to issue a contract to AIT Services of Brownwood, Texas. They are owned by one of the designers and fabricators of the Fenton sludge dryer, and Fenton went out of business over 10 years ago. This is to rehab the agitator paddles that scrape the material from the inside of the drum and prevent it from caking. The cost to perform the work is $30,380.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve a contract award in the amount of $30,380 to AIT Services, Inc. for the rehab of the Academy Creek sludge dryer.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Next item is surplus items. Mr. Burrs?
Yes, sir. We have 6 items here for surplus, 4 vehicles, a trailer, and a forklift. The first vehicle on the list, as you can see, has over 280,000 miles and needs a transmission replacement. That vehicle has been replaced by a newer purchase earlier this year. We have a trailer that we used to use to haul lawn equipment when we self-performed our lawn care duties. Now that is contracted out and we have no use for the trailer. There's a forklift with hydraulic issues that has been replaced, and 3 2014 Kia Souls that were used by the meter reading crew. We purchased these back in 2014 with the hope of utilizing these effectively, and we determined that crew was better set up to use a small pickup and or small cargo van with the ability to haul some meters and parts with them. So the request is to declare all 6 of these items as surplus and allow us to dispose of them in the manner most beneficial to JWSC, which is typically posted on the GovDeals website for auction.
Can I have a motion?
I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the above-listed items as surplus to be disposed of in a manner that is most beneficial to JWSC.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Next item is dedication of private infrastructure and easements. Mr. Klein?
And, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to correct our meeting agenda. It says Autumnwood Phase 4. In our packet, it says Autumnwood Phase 3A.
Yeah, it's 3A. That is correct.
And also, Mr. Chairman, I'll need to recuse myself on that vote.
You get that, Krista? Mr. Klein?
All right, Commissioners, thank you again. Good afternoon. The 3 items before you are items, and these were, as mentioned before, brought before the Facilities Committee. Autumnwood Phase 3A, which is purely a dedication of infrastructure, no easements. Second item is 151 Old Kate Road. It's a sewer connection via low-pressure force main. That is dedication of infrastructure only, no easements. And then number 3 is Beverly Villas, dedication of infrastructure with an easement for us to reach the connection to that private system. That is a master metered system. And I'd like to point out, Autumnwood Phase 3 is bringing about 24 new developments to us, connections to us. 151 Old Cape Road is 1 connection, and then Beverly Villas is 80 dwelling units. So those are new service connections, new customers, essentially.
That's a master meter on the Beverly Villas?
Beverly
Yes.
Villas is a master meter,
Okay.
yes.
1 customer, but it's 80 dwelling units.
Right.
The Facilities Committee approved these for presentation to the full commission today. Can I have a motion?
As did finance approved too.
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve these projects as, with associated dedication and easement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1
For one
abstention.
abstention, right.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The Executive Director's update. Burrs.
Had 6 or 8 staff members spend the first 2.5 days of this week up in Savannah at the annual Georgia Association of Water Professionals Conference. Ms. Angela Walker gave a presentation on pretreatment at that conference, and we got a lot of good feedback from that presentation. Our staff was able to learn some of the ongoing trends in our industry, and it was a good use of staff time to be up there doing that and seeing some of the other utilities from the state. Other than that, I'd like to thank Ms. Krista Free for filling in for Janice today, and that is my update.
Any commissioners have anything you want to say?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that the Glynn County Board of Commissioners has worked on revamping our codes and ordinances and building codes. Those are getting ready to go out to the public in the next 30 days. Part of that will need to address the formation of joint water and sewer, even though it's been a long time ago. The code's even older than that, to facilitate best use practices for approvals and ask that you assign someone to look over the subdivision regulations and those kind of things to make sure that we're bringing the best information possible forward for the adoption of these new
Absolutely.
subdivision regulations.
When do you think those are gonna be adopted?
We hope to vote in October on that, but it'll go out to the public, and we hope in August, and then a 30-day review and then a public hearing, and then get ready to adopt. So it's getting to the finish line, finally.
And we've already given the county our proposed standards changes, haven't we, Todd?
We have provided, now our construction standards, we have not necessarily provided them copies of that, but the recommendations, revisions, and things like that, we have. So, and that was, so we'll look forward to the opportunity, Mr. Neal, for taking those quickly.
Yep.
Well, for our standards, I think we need to at least give them a highlight of the changes. So we
Absolutely.
don't have the conflicts like we've had
Right.
previously on some things.
They'll be very much invited to the
Yeah.
stakeholder meeting for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Stephanie Leaf has been very instrumental in working through this. So if you could touch base with her to make sure that information that you have is integrated in the information that they have and have been working on.
Any other commissioners have anything? I just want to reinforce what Andrew said. We did have, I guess, 8 staff members there at the conference. There were 1,900 people attend that conference, so it was a big conference. And it was a 2.5 day conference. And every time I saw one of the members, they were either in a session or else they were talking to vendors. So they were not just fooling around. They were very interested in the
Networking
job.
going on.
Yeah,
Good.
And it's all you can eat popcorn for $5.
that's the best deal.
Good deal. Who's selling the drinks?
We need to go into executive session.
For property.
Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So second.
All in favor? We
Aye.
adjourn for
Are we gonna do it
executive
in here
session.
then?
So take it in there. Commissioner Roll, I'll call you on your cell phone from the room.
Okay.
Favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Get Commissioner Roll back on here.
Oh, we gotta get her back in the lobby, she's in the lobby, hang on.
Yep.
Commissioner Roll, there's been a motion and a second to come out of executive session, how do you vote?
All right, it carries.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting's
Aye.
adjourned.
Okay, good.
Oh, my goodness.